Download the free Gun Dealio app to your smartphone. Find out about the latest deals and news on guns and gear. Includes the latest Gun Talk podcast and Gun Talk videos. That's Gun Dealio on the App Store and Google Play.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, what can actually be done to help prevent another school shooting? Hear from a superintendent whose schools have had armed teachers and staff for 5 years. Plus, a trainer teaching emergency response and safety training to educators. What doing something really means, and more. Call in now at 866-TALK-GUN. And now, here's Tom Gresham.
All right, we're going to be talking about, well, you know what we're going to be talking about today on Gun Talk. I'm Tom Gresham. Our number is 866-TALK-GUN. You want to write that down. You want to have it ready because we're going to say something that's going to spur you on, tick you off, make you happy. I don't know, but we're going to say something that gets your attention. I guarantee you. The number is, just dial Tom Talk Gun. Obviously, we're talking about the Parkland, Florida school shooting and the aftermath, and the response, and the media response, and the president's response, and what people are saying, and what people are doing, and the tyranny of the left, actually the murderous tyranny of the left. But first, I want to get this said, because this is important. Every one of us, I don't care who you are, I don't care where you are on the political spectrum, every one of us hurts. Every one of us grieves for this, but none of us, and I really resent it when people, they make it sound like, well, if you won't support gun control, you don't care about kids dying. What a heinous thing to say. Just awful. But none of us can feel this the way the families of those who have been killed feel this. There's a level of grief there that if you've not been there, you cannot understand. I've not been there. I have friends who have, okay? It's a grief that you don't get over. You don't get through it. You don't get closure on it. You endure it for the rest of your life. You endure it, but it's there every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year, for the rest of your life. This burns like a coal, hot, burning coal inside of you forever. Don't lose sight of that. Do not lose sight of what has happened here. And then the add-on to that is this. We gun owners, we lawful, legitimate, safe, responsible gun owners utterly and completely reject the premise that we are part of the problem. We reject it because we're the ones who have reduced gun violence. We're the ones who have reduced murders. We're the ones who have reduced gun accidents. We're the ones who have been teaching for 100 years gun safety, not these phony AstroTurf, Bloomberg, Soros gun safety groups. We are the ones who have been doing something, working on it every day, every week, every month, every year. We're in the trenches. So don't come in here and tell us what we should or shouldn't be doing when you just showed up. Take a look at what's happened. 50% reduction in gun murders, 70% reduction in gun crime, accidental gunshot deaths at the lowest point ever recorded, millions more people having guns, millions more people carrying guns daily, loaded guns, and yet all the trends are good. All the trends are positive. Huge, huge advances. So don't come dropping in here and telling us that we're the problem and you have the solution. Now, for you listeners of Gun Talk, if you feel as though war has been declared on you and your way of life, you are exactly correct. That's what has happened in this last week. Well, what's going on? We're going to talk about it in 3 different points here. We're going to get to a lot of stuff. We got it really packed up. One, we're going to be talking about the flawed system of mental health. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. we are going to spend a lot of time on the failure of established systems that we trust to help and protect us. FBI, Broward County deputies, law enforcement in general. Some responded heroically. Some were so awful it was unbelievable. We're going to be also talking about the knee-jerk response of the media and others and what that's all about. It's basically about opportunity. Yes, the bottom line is they hate you and they want you to die. We'll document that for you. Coming up, we're going to be talking about should teachers have guns and all the what-ifs out there. What if, or what if this, what if that? Well, let's talk to people who've actually been doing it. We'll talk to a school superintendent where they have had armed teachers for 5 years, and we'll get that report. 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham.
Now you can own a brand new revolver with roots in the 1800s. The astounding North American Arms Ranger 2. A break-action, 5-shot, 22 Magnum mini revolver. Inspired by the Schofield Smith & Wesson of the 1870s, this 7-ounce Magnum revolver is fun to shoot and easy to carry every day. Historic style, high-tech, pocket precision. Check out the new Top Break Ranger 2 at NorthAmericanArms.com. NorthAmericanArms.com.
This land, once wild and free, fades now from our memory. But I remember what it was like, what we were like, what we are capable of when we band together. Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. These natural wonders are where waterfowl begin their cycle of life, where the deer and the antelope play, and where we, the people, gather together to see and share what makes the outdoors so great. The time is now to band together with organizations like Ducks Unlimited. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
Used guns can be a great value, but you have to know who you're buying from. What if you could buy quality used guns with a lifetime warranty from the Internet's largest online reseller? That's what you get at Dewey'sGuns.com. They stand behind every firearm purchase for life. If you have a problem, they'll either fix or replace your gun. Pistols, rifles, shotguns, and more. Check out their inventory today at Dewey'sGuns.com. On Twitter, I've had to ban a few folks, block them. The foul language of the left is amazing. Of course, this is the group that somebody took out a billboard on the side of the road that says, "Kill the NRA." That'd be you and me. And then when Dana Lash was at the CNN phony town hall meeting, we had people calling her a murderer and saying, "Burn her." Anybody remember their history? The Salem witch trials? That's exactly where we are today. But one of the things I've run into is people are going, when you start talking about having teachers and administrators who have training, who have volunteered, having guns, you get the what if. Well, what if a student gets a gun? Well, what if a teacher shoots the wrong person? Well, what? Stop. That's like you and me arguing about how tall that door is over there, when all we have to do is grab a tape measure and measure, because we have a track record. Well, somebody who has a track record with that joins us right now, David Hopkins, Clarksville, Arkansas. He's the school superintendent there. David, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Tom, so much for having me. I'm a long-time listener, and it's an honor to be part of your program today.
Now, you are the school superintendent there.
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, so about roughly 5 years ago, you were able to get it set up so you have armed teachers and staff. What brought that about, and what is the process?
Well, it was Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook is what brought it about. That shocked the conscience of the country and every educator in this country. And given our position, we needed to come up with something to help defend against that. And we felt like one of the most practical things we could do is to have some armed staff in the building that could respond, because we've seen time and time again these things happen in a matter of seconds. I think the report was that it was 3 minutes worth of shooting that took place down in Florida. So it's got to be a rapid response, and no better to respond than the people that are in the building that can clue in on the sounds and see what's happening and respond to that. And I tell you, when we tried to put that in place, we really didn't have a roadmap or procedures to do that with. And we started searching, and we didn't even know if we had the legal means to be able to do it. And we kind of ran into some rough water trying to get it started. What we decided to do was there was no way to have a gun on school property at that time unless you were a commissioned security guard.
Okay.
And so what we did is we looked into setting up a security division in our district and having commissioned security guards. And as we went through that process, it started working. We talked to the state police, and they told us what we needed to do. We filled out the proper paperwork and began putting that together. But as we gained some notoriety for doing that, because we told our patrons what we were doing, we wanted our people to know, how we were responding to these things. And it got picked up by the news, and the AP came in, and it just went global. And when it did, I got a phone call from a friend of mine that worked in Little Rock, was pretty close to some of the political offices up there, and they said they're about to shut your program down. And I was like, well, I can't believe that. What do you mean? And sure enough, we got a call from the Attorney General's office at the time, and he more or less said that it's illegal. You don't have the option to do that as a public school, and we're going to pull your commissions from your officers.
Okay.
And so we went and fought that, and we had several other districts in the state, not very many at the time. There was 2 others that were in the same boat that we were in, and we all went and fought that. And that commission was actually ran by a board that the governor appoints people to run it.
Right.
And because of that, because it had to go back to a hearing for them, there were some people on that board that felt like we were doing the right thing. And what they did is they set it up to where we could keep our commissions for 2 years, which would allow the legislature to meet and then get it sorted out legally. And during that time, we went from a Democrat governor to a Republican governor, and we fortified the Republican presence in our legislature, and they passed laws that allowed us to keep the program.
All right, so give me an idea. How many teachers, staff, because it's not just teachers, it's administrators, it's other people too, right?
That's correct.
So roughly how many do you think are, I am sure you know, either are carrying or are set up and approved for that?
We've got over 20.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, Tom, I don't ever give the exact number because we want to kind of keep that right. We want to keep that kind of amongst ourselves, but we do. We've got over 20, and I'll tell you, when we set that up, I didn't want to set it up where I was the only one that had a firearm or maybe just one of the principals. We knew that if we were going to put together something that was going to work, we needed multiple people in each building to be able to respond. And I think that we saw some of that down in Florida where if you're by yourself and you're expected to go in there and face something like that, I think psychologically it does a lot to know that, hey, I've got a team in this building, and we've worked together, we've trained together, and now we're going to go face this situation.
Okay, well, that was my next question. Is one of the things I keep hearing the naysayers, the CNN folks saying, well, most teachers just don't want to do that. They're making it sound as though you're going to force every teacher to carry a gun, which, as we know, is idiotic. How do you go about that? Is this people volunteer for it, I'm assuming?
They do. It is strictly volunteer. They don't get paid for it either. We worked it out where,
I think that's great. I got to tell you, I think that's great because Trump said something about, well, we ought to pay them extra. And I'm thinking, no, because then there will be people who do it just for the money and not because they have the calling.
I agree. And that's what we did. We went and I sat down with my administrators and they talked about it. And I'll tell you, none of us want to be in the situation where we have to cower under a table defenseless. And you've seen in these past experiences or these things that have happened that really is not what happens, that teacher in a lot of cases is charged head on into these situations, but they're unarmed and they're untrained.
Sandy Hook and Florida, teachers charging the bad guy getting killed because the administration said we would rather have you die than have you have a gun that would protect these kids because it just doesn't fit our political agenda.
And that is exactly right. And that's why the people that we went to and talked to, again, we had some that thought maybe that's what they wanted to do. And then after we kind of got started, well, they decided, no, I don't know that I'm up to that.
That's
but
fair.
Certainly we had absolutely. And no questions asked. Mm-hmm. But we had a number, obviously more than 20 that said, no way, I want to do it. I'll volunteer because if I'm ever in that situation, I want to be able to do something. And we all know that we don't know what the outcome of a situation like that be. And we pray that nothing like that ever happens. But at least give us a fighting chance to take care of ourselves and take care of those kids.
Yeah, you know what it is? I tell people, look, it's not a guarantee, but what it is a chance, because without it, you have no chance.
That's exactly right. That's the way we see it.
So how often do they train? What do you do with that?
Well, we started out, again, we didn't have really a roadmap of what we were doing. So we initially started out with about 50 hours of training. But since that time, and we continue to train annually, Tom, but since that time, the legislature, when they put into place the new commissioned school security officer program, it is an initial 60 hours of training, and that training is broken out across, obviously, firearms training. There's training with force on force. There's weapon retention training. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's all done by law enforcement. And it's, I'm very familiar with folks that are in law enforcement, and I realize that a lot of their training, they get a lot of different hours of training, but it's very, very broad training. And what we get is that little slice of active shooter training. Right. And so it's a narrow slice, but it's a very deep slice for us because we just hit it and hit it and hit it.
Yeah, and your folks are not making traffic stops and doing all that other kind of stuff. They train for the one thing that they might face, and when you can do that, you get 50 or 60 hours, you can get to be quite good at it. People say, well, what can a teacher do? I said, well, I've seen people go through 40 hours at Gunsight or Thunder Ranch, one of those, and they come out very impressive. And you're actually teaching a even more narrow focus, so they really do master the skills.
Absolutely. We started again, now at 60 hours and then 24 hours annually. And our people get really more opportunities to train than that. We provide ammunition for them on a monthly basis to train. And then when we have our big trainings, our group trainings, we provide all the ammunition at that point also. We gave them a stipend so that they could be properly equipped. And I'll tell you, it's kind of a neat story there. When that all happened, right after Sandy Hook, you could not find a firearm, a pistol anywhere. The shells were empty. And we, one of our trainers had a relationship with Walther, which is located now in Fort Smith. And Walther Arms found out about our situation. They said, hey, we've got a crate coming, and you get first dibs. You tell us what you need. And they offered discounts to us, and they got us going. And so now we're equipped with PPSs and PPQs is what we have.
David, let me ask you, I know when you first started, you got a lot of pushback, both in the media and probably among the citizenry there, but you're 5 years into it now. Do you get any pushback from the locals anymore?
No, we don't. That's all since passed, and we didn't have a whole lot to begin with. Obviously there were some concerns, and there are still some concerns from time to time. I spoke with a gentleman the other day because of all this that came up that, he was kind of new to the community and wanted to know more about what we're doing. And I'll tell you, I avail myself to anybody like that and sit down and try to explain what we're doing. And most of the time, people feel better about things when they realize the amount of training and how regulated we are with what we're doing.
Well, and the other thing is I know they want to know things that you probably don't need to tell them, like how are they carrying, where do they store guns? Well, there are some things that you just shouldn't be giving out that information just from a pure security standpoint.
That's right. And I tell you, we're fortunate because last year during our last session, with the help of some legislators, we were able to pass a law that allowed us to keep those things out of freedom of information. And it's just, a narrow band, and it has to do with how we evacuate schools, how we provide our security for our kids. Those things we no longer have to blast out, in the newspapers and stuff when they call and lay that freedom of information out in front of us.
Well, that's great because, unfortunately, the media just doesn't care. As long as they get a story, and I'm just going to say it right, they really don't care if people die. They really don't care if children die. They just don't. They'll cry over it, but they'll love the ratings. Dana Lash this week said, look, the legacy media loves mass shootings because it gets them ratings, and people just went nuts. Well, you know what? It's true. It just is. And so if they will publish the information about who's carrying, and they do, how they're carrying, and they do, what your systems are, how you're taking care of the kids. They'll publish every single detail of it. What they're doing is they're telling the bad guy, here's your roadmap for how to get in there and get away with it.
I agree. And I tell you, Tom, I think that goes back to here in Arkansas. We are blessed. We have, for whatever reason, it just lined up. And we've had good legislatures. The governor has been supportive. And I think we've got the laws tweaked to where they need to be. We've got some protections in there. And we've got a really good system. If a school district wants to do something like this, I think we've got a workable system now.
All right, one more question for you, David. You've been doing this for 5 years. You're the superintendent. There are other schools, other districts that are talking about this right now. If there's a superintendent or a principal or somebody that has questions, can they call you and contact you about this? Absolutely, yeah. And I've had, superintendents are tight in the state of Arkansas with our association, and I've had numerous phone calls since this occurred in Florida. And I know that there are some that are really getting off dead center with it, that are putting it together at this time. So it's kind of one of those things, you hate that it happened, but it's a catalyst to get moving on this. You do hate that it happens. What I really hate, of course, is those who say, well, we should do all these other things. And I keep saying, look, security is a layered system. I mean, at the airports or wherever you go. So you're doing everything you can to try to keep them from getting in the first place and to keep them from turning bad on you and doing all those stuff that the Broward County Sheriff's Department dropped the ball and the FBI dropped the ball on. But I always ask them, so what do you do if all that fails? What's your position when they're actually in the walls? And that's what you're setting up, and that's what works. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because, again, remember, that young man, he went to that school. He belonged there. Yeah, and so he might have been expelled at the time, but when he goes up to that door, there's going to be kids that'll hold the door wide open for him. Yeah, exactly. You can't always put some sort of measure in place. You've got to have a fail-safe. That's David, look, I got to run. David Hopkins, he's the superintendent of Clarksville, Arkansas School District there. Thank you so much for what you're doing, man. Well, I appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. And thank you for having me on. Absolutely. Yeah, you know what? It takes guts to do that. It's like, you got to push a rope sometimes to make it happen. That's an administrator. That's a leader that has some guts, unlike, and I'm just going to say it, just unlike that bureaucrat with a bad sheriff in Broward County. Did you see him today? Oh, my gosh. Excusing himself, saying he's doing an awesome, amazing job? Good Lord.
Sign up for our Gun Talk newsletter and join the Truth Squad at www.guntalk.com. Now, back to Gun Talk with Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
All right, we're talking about the Parkland, Florida school shooting and how responsible, legal, safe gun owners are under attack. I'm not talking about just like verbal attack. I'm talking about physical attack. I'm talking about calls for the murder of NRA members. People posting messages of, next time I hope it's the NRA members' children who die, saying that Dana Lash, spokesman for the NRA, is a murderer and that she should be burned. Those were the calls you heard at the CNN town hall meeting. There's a lot going on out there, but some people are actually thinking this through. And yes, the discussion is up there about arming teachers, or at least not just teachers, people in schools. And, of course, one of the things you keep hearing is, well, some teachers just don't want to do that. And teachers unions are saying, our teachers don't want to do that. Then they don't have to. I've never heard anybody advocate that we should force teachers to get training and have guns. But, we're going to talk to some trainers today who are, in fact, teaching teachers and administrators and others to shoot and respond and to save children. One of those right now joins us, our good friend. You've seen him on a lot of our television programs, Chris Cerino of Cerino Training. And, Chris, you've been involved in the Ohio-based FASTER program for a while now, haven't you?
I have. I've actually been involved with FASTER since, it's been 5 years.
5 years. For those who want to take a look at it while we're talking, fastersaveslives.org. What's the basic concept there? Because people are saying, well, do you want to force children or teachers? Nobody's forced to do this, right?
No, absolutely not. That's one of the things that's really frustrating to Michelle and I is that these people, these teachers and these administrators and people just keep saying, well, you can't have teachers doing it. They've got enough responsibility. The people that want to do it are the ones that are volunteering for it.
Right, they're volunteering. Well, you're a good shooter. You're a competitive shooter, but you are also former local and federal law enforcement with an extensive background there. And people will say, I'm sure they've said to you, okay, great, but what could a teacher actually do in one of these situations? Give people an idea of what you can teach people to do in a few days, because it's pretty impressive.
Well, just one quick thing is that I did just put a piece up describing exactly what FASTER is and what it's comprised of. Oh. I just put it on my Facebook today, so anybody that wants to read it can look at it. I did it for Recall Magazine, and I shared it today. So,
excellent.
But anyways, the whole idea is that it's like a mini SWAT school. It's about as good as any continuing education for a police officer, and it all culminates at the end with well, for Ohio, we make them go through the qualification that the police officers for the state go through. And the police officers in the state shoot 25 rounds, and they have to pass with 80%. They can miss 5. But we add an extra 3 rounds at different stage, and the teachers have to pass with a 92%. They're only allowed to miss 2 rounds out of 28. So at the end of it, I mean, we have a high standard. And it is a big deal. There's a lot going on. We have mindset training and tactical mindset. We do immediate casualty care, medical stuff that gives them some improvised techniques for dealing with wounds. We do force-on-force training for stress inoculation. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, and it's about 28 hours. We do it in 3 days. It's completely voluntary, and the people that we get in it are generally wannabe warriors, sheepdogs themselves, because after all, most teachers are protectors naturally. They would give their lives, and they often do, for their students. But one of the interesting things that people should know, Tom, is that, you know, after day one, in the first half of the day, when we get through mindset, there are sometimes people that say, hey, you know what, I don't think I can do this. It's just not going to be for me. And they leave. But by the very end, we always have 1 or 2 people that fail the qualification. We give them 2 attempts to pass with a 92%. And we always have 1 or 2 that fail just because they just can't put it together in that short of a time. And that's completely understandable. You know, they come back for remediation. But we also added before the 3-day class, and people need to know also that you have to have your CCW in the state of Ohio to come to the FASTER, because that weeds out some people. And then the other thing you have to do is you have to come to an 8-hour primer session, which we've done. We've created and chosen some preferred instructors, trainers from the state of Ohio, people around that we trust. And they get a 8-hour training session, and they get kind of an idea of what they're in for, reference to firearms sports, additional 8 hours of firearms. So there's a lot that goes into it.
All right, you've done a tremendous amount of training yourself, and this is going to be a weird question, I know, but if you're there outside of school and you hear shots going off in there, and you, Chris Cerino, I know you're going in just like I am. I'm going in, okay? Would you be happy, would you be satisfied having one of these teachers go in with you as part of your team?
Yeah, and the local sheriff's offices and police officers that work with them are pretty satisfied to have them as backup. In fact, they're glad to have them as backup, because anything is better than nothing. And I know you did ask another part of that question. I didn't really respond. The fact is, Tom, even if this teacher goes after him because they say, what can a little pistol do against an AR-15?
Right.
Tom, the idea is to stop the killing. The idea is to change the killer's attention from innocent targets to self-preservation or ending it himself and getting out of there.
Right.
You know, once you change somebody's attention and you make them the hunted, everything changes and people can be safe.
Well, you know, and I'm going to, a little later on, I'm going to give some examples, but I've got I've got 5 examples of where people with handguns took on either a bad guy or multiple bad guys with rifles and saved the day with their handgun. In one case, it's a .38 revolver, and he took on guys with grenades and real automatic weapons. I mean, and exactly what you're saying. When you start shooting back, they never had that in their mind. When they went in looking for that, that's not part of the scenario they envisioned, and it changes everything.
It's exactly what happened at the Trolley Square Mall shooting. I mean, that guy had a single-stack 1911, and he downloaded it because he wanted to ruin his magazine springs. But the instant he started shooting back at this guy, changed his focus, put him on the run, and the deaths stopped happening. That's what's important.
Yep, and the guy in the Trolley Square, he had a shotgun, a pump shotgun. He had already shot and then walked up and executed several people, shot him in the head with the shotgun, and it took one guy with a single stick.
Do you know how many rounds he shot?
No.
Do you know how many rounds he shot? He shot somewhere like 27 or 33 rounds, Tom, from a pump-action shotgun. What could a competent armed individual do against somebody that has to load a shotgun that many times?
There's always an opportunity. You get in there and you do it. Chris, I know that the FASTER program is in Ohio, but I understand that they are actually offering that, or at least talking to people in other states at this point. You know anything about that?
Yeah, we presented one out in Colorado. Colorado started a FASTER program. We'll be out there twice more this year, and Wyoming is bringing us out for a class this year as well. They're starting the program. But, of course, over the 5 years, many states have been testing the waters and feeling it out. I have a feeling they're going to start taking action.
I think you're right. The program on the web, it's fastersaveslives.org, and you need to be following Chris Cerino on Facebook. Now, do you have your website set up also for people to take a look at?
Yeah, it's linked in there, too, ChrisCerinoTrainingGroup.com.
ChrisCerinoTrainingGroup.com. Chris and Michelle, and you know what? And they'll also, you can talk to them about getting some personal training, which is a really good idea, or maybe even group training, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of it.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Say hello to Michelle for me.
All right, we'll see you, Tom. Thanks.
Take care. All right, 866-TALK-GUN. Now we are open lines. If you have a thought on this, teachers with guns, good, bad, frightening? Love to get your take on it. What are you hearing out there? 866-TALK-GUN.
Are you looking for a place to shoot? The National Shooting Sports Foundation has a great website called wheretoshoot.org. It's the largest database of shooting ranges on the internet. It's also a great resource for shooters where you can find video tips, printable targets, and a lot more. Find it online at wheretoshoot.org. And while you're there, download their free iPhone app. That's wheretoshoot.org.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. Shopguntalk.com.
All the refinements in Smith & Wesson's M&P M2.0 pistol series shrunk to a perfect carry size in the new compact version. 4-inch barrel, light crisp M2.0 trigger, aggressively textured grip for enhanced control, 4 interchangeable palm swell inserts, 2 magazines, lifetime service policy, 15-round 9mm mag, 13-round 40 mag. The M&P M2.0 compact pistol. More at smith-wesson.com.
All right, the number here is 866-TALK-GUN, and just dial Tom Talk Gun. I started off by saying if you feel as though war has been declared upon you and your way of life, you are absolutely, positively correct. What's going on? What's going on with that? Well, I'll address why that's going on in just a few minutes. You know, there are like I don't know, you could divide this into 3 different areas. What's going on, what we can do, what we should be addressing. The flawed mental health system is one that everybody likes to talk about, but nobody wants to do anything about. And somebody was asking me, said, well, why are we not seeing any movement there and people want to do something about guns? And I said, well, a couple of reasons, really. One is that fixing the mental health system is hard. It's difficult. And everybody understands that it would be difficult and it would take a long time and it would take many, many years and it would take a lot of money. And it's so much easier just to say we should do something about guns. Even if they know, and I'm convinced some of them must know that it's an utter failure, nothing they have advanced as a possible solution will work. How do I know that? Because everything they have put forward as a possible solution in the way of gun restrictions has already been tried in the United States. Everything. Waiting periods? Yes, sir. Got them. Don't reduce crime. Age limits? Yep, got them. Don't reduce crime. How about a ban on semi-automatic rifles? Yes, we did that for 10 years across the country. Didn't affect crime whatsoever. Okay, that's not working. What else can we do? Background checks. Oh, yeah, we have background checks. When you go buy a gun, the FBI has to okay the purchase. No effect on crime. And in fact, where they catch people breaking the law, felons trying to buy guns, they don't even prosecute. They don't even come out and look into it. It's like, who cares? Well, if nobody cares, what's the point? Why even do it in the first place? Everything they are putting forward has been tried and has failed. But here's where you really get into what's really going on. But that's not really important because they don't care about the guns. And you've heard me say this over and over. Maybe this week, as you have watched the news, maybe in the back of your head you're saying, wait, I've heard Tom talking about this for years. Yes. What's really going on? It's not that they don't like guns. It's that they hate you. And that's hard to take because you're thinking, I'm the good guy. I'm the good gal. I store my guns safely. I use my guns responsibly. I watch my muzzle. I take gun safety classes. I teach gun safety classes. I've never had a problem. I would go to help children. How can they hate me? Trust me, they do. Now, what they do is they won't say, well, we hate gun owners, because that would be just a little bit too open. So what they do is they say, well, we hate the NRA, knowing that you, and literally, whether or not you are a member of the NRA, it's you they hate. They just are using the stalking horse of the NRA. So that's really what's going on. Is they hate you, and quite frankly, they would like for you to die. No, I'm not making that up either. They say it. Oh, finally, they feel there's enough cover out there. There's enough people. The media will give them cover. They can take out billboards and say, kill the NRA. They can say Dana Lash, somebody, burn her. They can say that you're a murderer. They can post messages that, I hope you die, screaming. I hope that your children die. I hope your kids are the next ones to die. Now, this was supposed to be the compassionate feeling left. They would like to have you believe they have a monopoly on caring. Because, of course, in their view, if you don't support repressive, restrictive, useless, proven failures of gun control laws, then you don't care. Then you must be okay, and they'll say this, you must be okay with children dying in schools. Really? That's what we're going to do? We're not going to have a real conversation here? Evidently not. You must be okay with children dying in schools, is what they say. When we come back, Jim is with us. We will be talking with him. If you'd like to get in on that, 866-TALK-GUN. What do you think? Should we have armed teachers and administrators in schools to protect our children? One of the things we've seen this week following the shooting at the Parkland, Florida school is the calls for we have to attack the NRA, do something, the NRA. And I asked this question of you. What role did the NRA play in this shooting? None whatsoever. Then why the outrage directed at them? Simple, one word, opportunity. The media hates the NRA, the left hates the NRA, and a lot of leftist Democrats hate the NRA because, well, fill in the blank. Why? They represent freedom, they represent security, they represent not relying on the government. So it's just pure opportunity, nothing more than that. But a lot of people have responded to that. I think Jim has as well, out of Nebraska Line 2. Jim, you're with us. What have you done?
Good afternoon. The other day I heard on the radio that, and I thought we had more than 5 million members in the NRA. I thought we had 8. But the other day I added 3 members, so we have 5,000,003. I bought 3 gift memberships for people I know that have guns who do not belong to the NRA.
Okay, why? Why'd you do that?
Because it's numbers, just like you said. If we had 10 million, if every one of the NRA members went out and gave a gift certificate, and those names were on the roll when we speak to our representatives, there would be a lot more force behind everything we had to say.
You're an NRA member, right?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel when you hear the media and a lot of these people blaming the NRA, that is, blaming you personally, Jim, for these murders?
Well, I'm not overly pleased with the NRA hierarchy. I mean, they do things I don't like. But I don't know. I guess I do take it personally. But I'm a person that doesn't really care what somebody else thinks about me.
Fair enough. You know what? And that's interesting because I have said for, 30 or 40 years that one of the big differences between gun owners and gun haters is that groups, and it's hard to organize gun owners because we don't really care what others think about us. We don't seek validation of our choices. We're comfortable with ourselves. And I find that groups on the other side, people on the other side, have to cluster together to find the validation of their position because they're just kind of squishy on it. But when they get together, they get that mob mentality that lets them strengthen their beliefs and call for burning Dana Lash like a witch at the Salem witch trial. So I think you're onto something there, Jim. We don't care.
Yeah, I was when I was talking to your call screener, and isn't her name Michelle?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've talked to her a lot of times. I belong to a shotgun club, and shotgunners, and I shoot,
right.
but they are they're snobs.
And they're clueless and they don't think this is going to affect them. And I want to point out to them, if you read the bills that have been introduced to ban semi-autos or to keep people under age 21 from buying semi-autos, they include shotguns. I don't know if anybody's actually paying any attention out there, but they include shotguns in this. So for those who are just clueless and they're out there shooting sporting clays with their Berettas and their Benellis and all of that, you better wake up and smell the coffee because they don't want you to have a gun. I know you're thinking, well, that doesn't affect me, but that's just the bad old NRA. You better wake up and get your head out of your rear because they are coming for you, because if you own a gun, they hate you. It really is as simple as that. 866-TALK-GUN. We'll talk about more training of teachers when we come back. Don't miss this one.